G'day, Mark Page, New South Wales DPIB Biosecurity Officer Surveillance. So today we're going to have a look into a hive, see what's going on, recognise different areas of the hive, different castes of bees. So our smoker, very important. Bit of smoke into the hive disguises those alarm pheromones so the bees are not as aggressive. Not always perfect. Also said that they fear a fire's coming, that they'll gorge themselves with honey, and then they're concentrating on that and not concentrating on what you're doing. When we're working with bees, nice and gentle approach. They don't like the rough behaviour, and also that can damage comb areas and things like that, especially once we're in the brood box, and especially the queen. So just zip up here. Now the bees will generally bring in 4 things to the hive, so nectar, which they'll convert to honey, evaporate that off, so that's their carbohydrate. They'll also bring in pollen, water in the hotter parts of summer, and also resins, which they use as a propolis for antimicrobial, antibacterial. Also seals up cracks when we're near the winter time, things like that. So a little bit of smoke at the entrance. Doesn't need a lot. And then gently lift the lid. Bit of smoke under there. Don't need a lot of smoke if the bees are behaving. So our lid comes off. Now in this case here we've got the top box as a honey super. There is a queen excluder. Then the bottom box here is our brood box. So in a hive cover there, I'll just remove that. Place that aside. And we'll just have a look what's happening up here in the honey super. So we can see there, good to see frames covered with bees, healthy hive. Capped honey up the top here. So once they've evaporated that nectar off, down around the 20% or below, they'll cap it. And in here we can see the open cells that they're working on and filling with nectar. And once that's mature, they'll cap that. So again, even when we're working up the top, nice and gentle. This is the frame I put in 3 days ago. So we can see they've drawn that, storing nectar up in the top here. Now bees will only draw comb if there's something to put in it. So if you give them frames and they're not doing anything with it, what's happening outside, the conditions, what's flowering, is there a nectar flow? So they'll only draw comb if they've got brood to put in there, or pollen to store, or nectar as such. Okay, so we'll remove that honey super. A little bit more smoke. Not a lot of smoke. Now pushing down with your hive tool when you're near that excluder, so that the blade of our hive tool doesn't damage that excluder. If we open that up, that could allow our queen to access up into the top box, and then she would be up above the excluder then. Now having a look at the excluder just to make sure our queen's not on there. Now I just pop that down here. Some people will put it on top of the honey super. If the queen was there and I missed her, then the chance is she'll drop down into that honey super, and then again we've got a queen above the excluder. So general rule of thumb is second frame in. But even if there's a lot of burr comb, which this one doesn't have a lot, you can pick another one. But be very gentle with this first frame. We don't want to roll our queen in case she's on it. So we'll go gently, and the bees respect that gentleness too. Slowly lifting that frame allows the bees to move out of the way, which is most important. So a pretty good frame of brood there. A lot of drone cells up the top here. I'll zoom in a bit. Now I've got a frame holder here, so I can use that, clip onto the side of the box, and that'll hold the first couple of frames till I get a bit of room in the brood box there. So I'll just zoom in. A little bit more smoke. And then we'll go that second frame. Again, everything gentle. It's not a bad frame of brood there. I might shake the bees off this one so we can have a closer look. I'll just check for the queen. So when you're handling frames, just rest on your forefingers and using your thumb and your other fingers, just manipulating backwards and forward, rolling that frame, using the sunlight, just like that. So I don't see the queen there, so I'm just going to remove these bees and we can have a closer look at this frame. It's got some good drone brood, some good worker brood, and quite a bit of pollen stores there. Fair bit of light shake come off there. We can see the worker brood there, so that light shake, you can see the honey droplets or nectar droplets there. We've got drone brood up the top here, the big fat ones, and through here we've got the pollen. We will come in and have a closer look at those frames. So when we're inspecting, especially for pest or disease, it's important that we remove the bees. We cannot see through bees well enough. So we've got a couple of bees chewing out here, one chewing out here, but our brood looks pretty good. Just pop that one aside, go the next one in. It's a little bit patchy, that one, but there's a lot of pollen stored up in there. A fair bit of new brood coming through. I haven't spotted the queen yet, but I can see larvae and eggs, so I'm happy that she's around there somewhere. We don't have to always see the queen, but we need to understand that whether she's there or not. So pop that one back in, we'll go the next one in. And we'll also have a look at a new frame I put in only a few days ago. So again, a fair bit of pollen stored around that frame. Can't see the queen. Plenty of drones in this hive, but again I can see plenty of larvae coming through, plenty of pollen stored in there, so quite full of pollen. A good beginning to the season. So everything nice and gentle. And that's a pretty well full of pollen, that one. And there's our queen, just here. And she's just laid an egg there. You see her wandering through, so I might zoom in and we'll have a closer look at that frame. So I'll just remove one of these, so good idea to get some new frames into your brood box when conditions are good. So those ones have only been in a couple of days, so they're starting to draw them out, as you can see. Three drones there, they're quite big bee, and again drawing out. Okay, we'll have a closer look at that frame with the queen on it, and also that frame I shook some bees off. So we can see the queen wandering through there. Long slender abdomen, more of a shiny patch on the thorax, less hair on there. She's searching around looking for a cell to lay in. These big fellas here, this patch, the drones. Some more of a rounded and fluffy abdomen. The other smaller casts there are worker bees. Look over here, we've got one doing the waggle dance, just got pollen bags on, letting them know where the pollen is. So a brood frame, so these smaller flatter cappings are worker bees. Up the top here is drone brood. If we look at this bee here, it's just a young bee that's not long hashed out, quite light and fluffy. We can also see quite a good bit of pollen stores up around the top there. Alright, so code of practice, mandatory to do your 2 brood inspections every season, beginning of the season, springtime, this time of year, nice day, 20+ degrees. More field bees are out foraging then, so we've got less bees to contend with in the hive, and also on a cooler day there's chances of chilling brood and things like that, upsetting their brood temperature, which they like to keep it around that 34 degrees, similar to our body temperatures. So, and the other important part is, as you saw when we shook those bees off, and I'll show you another one, that to see our brood and check what's happening, we need to remove those bees. Code of practice, you can see that pollen up through there, says that we inspect minimum of 3 frames of brood. In my eyes, best practice would be to inspect all frames with brood. Picking up diseases such as AFB early is a key part of beekeeping, which not only helps yourself but also helps other beekeepers. Finding it early, the best thing we can do. So when you're removing bees from a frame, I'll use this one. So bringing it up, 2 forefingers under the end bars, the end of the top bar, and then bringing it up into the heel of your thumb. Give it quite a good pull up and jerk down. And that gets rid of them pretty quick. We can also use a bee brush and brush the bees off, but when they're like this with that nectar, it gets pretty sticky. Have a bucket of water, you can wash your brush, things like that. Good to have a bucket of water when you're in the summer months anyway, you're working with a smoker, just in case something goes wrong. So I'll put this one back together now. Shuffle everything over and make the room. And a good idea with that last frame that goes in is to, I'll just use a bit of smoke to move some of these bees away. Shake the bees off that last frame, that way make sure your queen's not there. Know where she is. When we go to put this last frame in, we're not going to roll a whole heap of bees and cause a problem. And again, nice and gentle. Back down in. Move our frame holder. A little bit more smoke, we can move those bees away. If we are beekeeping, it's like gardening, we will kill plants when gardening, we will squash bees when beekeeping. Minimise it as much as you can. Honey super back on. In a hive cover. And lastly our lid again. So remember, write down our records of inspection. Part of the code of practice now is to keep records of your brood inspections. Keep records of any other little things you see there. Disease, remembering New South Wales DPI, your notifiable pest or disease I should say, is American foul brood, European foul brood, chalk brood and nosema. There you go, thank you. I have a visitor here. Look at this. George the photo bombing dog.